Okay, so Robin, Michelle, thanks for doing all the confidentiality and informed consent stuff. Now we can really get started. First off, I want to know what's it like coming into therapy today?
Um, it's definitely different, I guess, talking to someone versus just arguing between ourselves for whether or not we want to have kids or not. So.
Okay, so kids are sort of a big issue for you guys? Or
Probably our biggest issue.
oh, okay. Well, tell me about that.
Well, as simple as it is, she wants kids. I don't want kids.
Okay.
So.
Any reasons why not?
It's just because like for me, a lot of it is I think about how expensive it is. She wants to have several kids, which in our case is not exactly easy. We would have to spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, so you're worried about finances.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense.
And for me, I grew up in a large family, and it's, I see the benefits of it, and I feel like, it just adds so much to your life having a family and kids, and she did not grow up in that environment, so I don't think she understands how much it can really, benefit and add to the life, just caring for people, having good memories together.
Sort of an enriching, existential experience is important.
Well, yeah, life is about people, not about money, and I think she focuses too much on money.
Okay, so say you both did want to have kids. What avenue were you both thinking? More like adoption, maybe short-term fostering, artificial insemination? Where were you on that issue?
For me, whatever works. However we can get there, I'm willing to do it. So, as long as it's legal, just want to say that.
Fair enough. Yes, as long as the means meet the ends legally.
Yes.
That works for you. Okay. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, I haven't really completely thought about which, because I've always been considering the money. So from my perspective, I feel like the cheaper end, if we did do it, would have been always my perspective. So whether it was adoption or artificial insemination, I've been fine with it.
Okay. Interesting.
We were gonna go along the lines of having kids.
Interesting. And you guys have been fighting about this a lot lately then?
Because we've been considering about getting married, so
Oh, okay.
I think down the line, if we didn't cover it now, we'd have to cover it at some point.
Do you deal with it now before it grows into a bigger issue? Okay. I see that. Yeah, I think for both of you, we should go with a more generational approach. And all that means is we're going to be asking stuff about your families, because a lot of stuff we learned early in life, we carry with us and we don't even realize it. The best example I've ever heard of this is the story of the pot roast. Basically, a husband and wife, they got married. Husband noticed the wife was cutting off the ends of the pot roast, throwing them away, and asked, "Why do you do that?" She said, "I don't know, my mom always taught me that." Next family get together, he asked the mom, "Why do you do that?" "That's how mom always taught me." Asks grandma. She says, "Oh yeah, I used to do that because I had this little small pan, and that's why I cut the ends off." So two generations were being affected by this little thing, because it's not like we're doing it intentionally. We do them, we learned it that way, and we never look back. So let's dig in a little bit more. Who wants to go first? Tell me about your families. What was it like? Give me a snapshot.
So my family, we were kind of a large family. We had 6 children, and mom and dad, and we didn't have a lot as far as money goes, but we had everything we needed, and it was just a lot of fun growing up because, I had my older siblings and the younger siblings, and we just did a lot of fun things together and had, great memories, and it really also taught the older kids how to, you know, take care of younger kids too. Like, you know, you learn about how to take care of kids when you have younger siblings, probably a bit
Mhm.
younger than yourselves, and I don't know, it's just a really good, fun time.
Okay, I wanna clarify just a few things first.
Mhm.
It sounds like you're a middle child, did I get that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool, so what did it look like? All girls, all boys, one boy?
So there's 3 girls and 3 boys.
Oh, even kind of Brady Bunch-esque split
Yes,
there.
yes.
Interesting, okay. Did, say, relatives come to visit a lot as well?
Yes, my parents also came, both sides came
Oh.
from big families. So when we had any kind of get together, it was like a big event.
Now it's a party.
Yes, it was,
Okay.
yes.
Interesting. So what I'm getting is, you know, big family, never a dull moment kind of household.
Right, very active and loud and, I don't know, just
Like
fun.
full of laughter and love kind of idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. I'm gonna put that on hold. Let's jump over to our other time machine, if you will. What were things like in your family?
Well, I was an only child, so my family, we weren't bad off, but we were able to make ends meet. But my parents were always having to work hard, and then eventually they ended up getting divorced. And so
Oh,
neither of my parents got remarried, but like we still had a hard time affording things on their own. So that's why, like, I had to work hard to get through school and whatnot.
see. Okay. How did you have any siblings or?
No, I was the only child.
Okay. Okay. So, and you mentioned this divorce. I'm sorry you went through that. When did that happen?
I was about 13, 14, if I remember right.
Oof. Okay. So on top of all the other developmental stuff going on there, you also had that to deal with. How did that affect you?
It was just hard just because, like, I was always, like, pressured into making sure I get through school because, like, they couldn't afford to get me through college or anything else, so.
Okay. So your family were always working.
Mhm.
That had to have been hard. How did you ever? I'm trying to think of phrases. Did you ever maybe want someone to play with? Did it feel lonely? Do you remember anything like that? Or were you just sort of like, oh, I gotta survive this?
I think I was just always so busy that I was always just, I guess, maybe in an aspect of surviving it because I knew I had to work hard to be able to provide more.
Interesting. Okay, so now kind of zoom out, make sure I follow you. So, only child, and both parents were working. You around 13, 14, divorce happened. That really sort of shook things up. First of all, is that about right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's look at how these things might be affecting right now. So when you guys fight, what does it look like?
I think like especially right now, it's mainly just over, of course, having a child and being able to afford it, so.
Mm-hmm. And I know finances are a big part of that. How do you both feel regarding that? Like, for example, Michelle, do you think that's a valid reason to not have a house full of laughter and love as you envision?
Well, I feel like there's always a way to be able to afford it or save for it or, you know, something. I just feel like we can make it happen if that's what we really want to do. And I guess it surprises me a little bit how she is because I feel like that was something that attracted her to me was, you know, that I came from a big family, but I guess, I don't know. It's just very frustrating because I just have such a hard time understanding how she cannot see what I'm trying to, build for us together, the big
Mhm.
family type, but I don't know.
You seem frustrated and confused that you can't understand where Robin's coming from. I totally get that. Do you have any thoughts on?
I mean, I do understand that, she comes from a big family, but I feel like also since they had a big family, they were able to, like, each of them were able to afford everything together,
Mm.
and like, our aspect, like, we wouldn't be able to,
Mm.
just because it is, like, I don't have, like, a big family to bring into this as well, so.
Mm. Yeah. I could be wrong, but it sounds almost like you're worried about more than just money for the child. It sounds like you're worried about, well, how much time with your family is this child going to get, and how you're going to be able to divide your attention. I'm getting that sense. I don't know if that's right. I want to check with you.
I guess maybe in a sense, a little bit, it could be that. I've never actually really thought of it that way.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, how do you both think you would handle that? Not just financially, treating each child fairly, but what about how would you make time for a large family to make sure each individual child gets some one-on-one time? That might be something worth considering.
Well, as far as one-on-one time goes, just from my past experience growing up, we as kids, we did enjoy our, one-on-one time we got with our parents, and it was like little snippets here and there, but I feel like we were just so busy with everything else going on with the other siblings that, I guess I don't wanna say we didn't miss it, because one-on-one time is, was good with the parents, but there's just so much going on. You didn't have time to just sit back and say, gosh, I don't think I got enough one-on-one time with, my parents today. So, like, I don't know.
I can definitely understand that. It's, you don't really stop and think about it, especially in a big family. When I know some of the families I've worked with, it's sort of thing. No, I didn't have time to think about that because my little brothers were chasing me around with sticks, sort of thing. Well, that's something for you both to think about. But I do want to get back to this conflict you guys have been having, and I'm curious to know, when your families fought, what did that look like? Whoever wants to go first. What did Mom and Dad? What were they like when they fought?
We played hard and we fought hard, so there
Okay.
was like lots of yelling and screaming, and but in the end, like, it wasn't violent in any way, but
Okay.
in the end it was, you just worked things out. We didn't hold things back. Everything that we needed to say came out, and we just took care of it right then and there, so.
Okay. That's impressive with large families. I know with large families, a lot of times what will happen is one person will hold the feelings in because they don't either have time or energy to deal with it. It's usually whoever's the primary caregiver. Who was that in your family?
Well, I would say, I have an older sister that I was around a lot, that helped out, and then my mom, when she could, but for the most part, it was the two of them. Dad was working, so, but Mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, so you sort of had like Mom in the executive chair, and then older sister sort of helping out, is that?
Yeah, pretty much whoever was like above you in age, they were kind of your bosses.
Oh, pecking order, okay.
Yeah.
I get that. Interesting. Okay, I don't know if it's over to Robin. What was that like in your family?
A lot of times, like, I remember seeing, like, my parents fight, and then one would end up, like, storming out, and, like, especially after the divorce, like, we probably wouldn't hear from them for a little bit, and then,
Oh,
so.
okay. if you don't mind, I'd like to know which parent stormed out. What, was it sort of like, did it flip flop, or was it reliably one more than the other?
A lot of times it was just my dad, just because like I primarily, like, especially after the divorce, I primarily lived with my mom. So, like, especially most of the time it would always occur like whether it was like time to pick me up for visitation or drop me off. They would argue, and then like I wouldn't. He would just storm off, eventually to his other family, and then
Ooh, that had to have been really rough.
it was interesting.
Yeah, tell me more about it. It sounds like that probably had a really big effect on you. You know, especially, like, I'm curious to know your feelings about when Dad left. Dad keeps leaving. How did that?
I mean, in a way, it was kind of confusing, just because like the fights weren't my fault, so I always felt like I didn't get enough time with him. So
Okay, that's really interesting that you are aware of that, because a lot of teens, they do get caught up in the "this is my fault, I could have done things differently."
yeah.
Where do you think that reassurance that this isn't my fault, where did that come from? Did it come from maybe mom, or?
I think in a way it did come from my mom a little bit, but also just kind of, I guess in a way it kind of taught me that I had to make sure to stick up, like make sure I put in my work for myself, because like he wasn't going to be there to like have enough money to send me to school, or so I don't know, like I never, I guess, really thought about it, where it came from.
Well, you know, see, this is why we use that generational approach, because a lot of times you start noticing things that you never noticed before. So, okay, cool. We got into some of your family stuff there, and I'm curious, how big of a role does family play now? So, what sort of connections do you guys have with parents, grandparents, and in your case, your siblings? Now, how much of a role would they have in these children's lives?
I guess it's not something that we talked much about, but I feel like the more the merrier. I feel like if, I want people to be involved with whatever children that we have together. I just feel like the more you add to the family, just like the greater it is, so.
Okay, so you're thinking keeping up with the tradition of your family, like
Yeah.
Nieces, nephews coming over for big barbecues and
Sure.
parties and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you feel about this?
I definitely feel like it would be more one-sided. Like a lot of her family would be definitely more involved than mine. So.
Okay, kind of like what was that movie? My Big Fat Greek Wedding sort of scenario, where it's like his family, hers. What's that like? What does that feel like to you, knowing that it's going to be such a big difference?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of unfortunate in a way,
Okay.
just because if maybe they wouldn't really get a sense of my side of the family, like where we're coming from,
It sounds like maybe dominate, like a little bit of a domineering
Yeah.
presence, just strength in numbers. Okay. Interesting. So first I want to get into, how do I phrase this? We get where you're coming from in terms of children, right? It sounds like you guys are sort of starting to figure out why you believe the things you believe, but I'm curious, where do finances fit in? I want to dig into that a little bit more. What were your families like from a financial standpoint, and where do you think some of your views about like the value of money and the value of saving, where's that coming from?
Well, I think along the line, cause like, my mom received child support from my dad, but it was always, like, we had enough to pay the bills, but like, we always had to make sure we had stuff in savings for like, the car broke down,
Mm.
or if something happened to the house where we needed to add repairs, or it was always a constant fight to like balance out if we had enough for savings and then also for,
Right, and that, I get that, having emergency savings is really important. What about, like, I'm sure the divorce took a toll on the family. What was that like? Do you remember any sort of noticeable changes in how much money your family had? I know a few clients who they remember that, you know, when the divorce started happening, Christmas presents got a little weird. You know what I mean? Because divorce is expensive. If there were attorneys involved, that gets expensive. What was that? What was that like?
I guess thinking about it now, it did change, like especially after the divorce. Like I kind of just got like a present for my dad and like a present for my mom. It wasn't like a Christmas tree full, like
Yeah,
presents and really you wake up to, you know.
definitely. Okay, and how, I'm curious, did that, you mentioned, you know, school was really important to them. Did that affect their sort of savings for like a college fund or anything like that?
I'm not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's what they dug into to pay for the attorneys, or if it was, I've never actually really considered asking about that, honestly.
Might be something worth looking into. But I am curious, what, like, sort of, how important is it that, say you adopt 3+ kids, right? How important is it that each one has a college fund to you?
I think it would be really important so that each of them has an equal opportunity
Okay,
to go to college.
and Michelle, what are you thinking about that?
Well, growing up, we didn't have a lot of extra money, but we had everything we needed. And I just don't feel like it does take a lot of money to raise kids, but in our case, like for Christmas, we each got one gift, which was fine with us. Like that's how we grew up. We didn't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like clothing and stuff goes, like we have hand-me-downs from, you know, my aunt and my uncle would give us clothes from their kids, and I don't know, that it was just really, we didn't have a lot of extra money, but we didn't realize that we missed it. Like we didn't realize that we didn't have a lot of money. And my mom was pretty thrifty when she shopped, so she would shop at, you know, secondhand stores for her clothes, and you know, if we needed something special, we never paid full price. Like we were just like really smart about how we spent our money.
Okay. So your mom was very, very thrifty. You feel like you may not have been rich, but you had enough to live comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to make sort of sacrifices here and there, but you don't think those sacrifices were worth it, if that makes sense. Those sacrifices were worth it for the experience you got.
Yeah, I mean, again, we didn't really feel like it was a sacrifice because we didn't know any different. That's kind of how we grew up, and in a big family, that's kind of what you do. You make sacrifices. You know, you buy a bag of potatoes versus, you know, I don't know, some other expensive food or something. You just learn how to make things last.
Okay, kind of this is paradise to me sort of
Yeah.
way of looking at it. Okay. How do hand-me-down clothes in general make you feel? Just everything that was said there.
I think it would definitely be kind of different just because like I was an only child, and like it wasn't that we had like close to hand, like received from our hand-me-downs, or
Mm.
it was always like, oh, well, you grew out of this, we have to go get you another one, like
Mhm.
another pair that would last. So we would buy a brand new pair so they would last longer.
Yeah, okay, and I'm assuming, grandparents, parents were all like, oh, you're the baby of the family, so I'm sure they sent gifts. Okay, yeah. Well, we got a few minutes left, so you both are making really good progress. What I want to do is start making you both sort of aware of your thoughts and emotions, so that when you leave here and you both have a fight, it doesn't, how should I put it? It doesn't get as explosive and loud, although that sounds like you might be the one who might be contributing to the loudness more.
Probably. I
Okay.
tend to escalate things.
How do you deal with that?
I kind of just, I'll either kind of just sit here and just listen, or maybe find something else that I gotta go happen to do.
Okay, so kind of she's coming at you more intensely and you're like, nope. And you start kind of backing away, distancing yourself? Okay. Would you say it's similar to the way your father did?
I guess in a way, thinking about it now, it is.
That's the power of insight. That's what we call it. It's just you're developing insight into, oh, that's why I'm like that, because my mom was like that, or sort of thing. And in a big family, you gotta be loud,
Exactly.
or else no one's gonna hear you.
Right.
By the time you speak up, all the cookies are gone. So you have to speak up first. Okay, I get that. Yeah, I think you both did really well. At least for our first session, we got some really good ground there. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a homework assignment. When we leave, I'm gonna give you guys a little questionnaire. And this is gonna be measuring something called differentiation of self, which is a really big word that is surprisingly easy to misspell. But all it is it's a measure of how close was your family and how much did they let you be your own person. And it sounds like it wouldn't be related to your issue of having kids, but you'd be surprised how much goes back to that. And it's also going to affect other things in your relationship as well. So I think it would be a really good idea to explore that. And then next time, I want you, so for next time, one of the other things we're going to do, I want to map out both of your families on what's called a genogram. And basically we're gonna assign fun little figurines and toys to them. And so you can really tell me like, oh, this represents grandma to me because whatever, she was big and scary, or whatever. And we can get a feel for your families in a much more detailed way. Does that sound good?
Yeah, so
Okay,
whatever helps.
well, we're done. Thank you both for coming.